Hello, this is the Sunday school lesson for pre-K and elementary for this Sunday, June 2nd. So Sunday school is at 10 o'clock, and again, there's no 9 a.m. service. This is our first thing of the morning on Sunday. What I'm doing is I'm using the same story for elementary and for pre-K. The pre-K lessons at this time of year tend to focus around Genesis, and they're very repetitive in terms of creation. So I'm going to use the middler story, and there are some good activities that will be appropriate for the little kids. So this video will go through the story and then have the activities for elementary and the activities for pre-K. So I'm going to start with pre-K. You don't have the Shine On Bibles that they use in elementary, so I've made a copy of the page from the Bible. I think it's still very appropriate for the little kids because it has a nice picture on it, but it's not the typical story card that we've used. The story is here on this side. It's not too long, but certainly a little longer than the kids are used to, but I think they'll be fine with it. There's also questions, wonder, connect, explore. Not all of those are going to be appropriate for the little kids. They'll be a little over their head, but you can read them, and if they seem like they are, that would be great. So the story is called Love the Lord. This is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. And so it's just about remembering to love God. And so it's a simple story, I think, from that perspective, and something that all these classes can relate to. I will also have a copy of the lesson. It says multi-age here. Their summer plans are not as differentiated as the rest of the year. And that's because there aren't as many kids who come to Sunday school. So there'll be a copy of this. As usual, they have wonder and reflect questions. Those are on page 9. So after you share the story, you can ask the questions. The ones that I think are good for the pre-K would say, I wonder how people felt when they heard about a land that would be their new home. And if anyone's ever moved or gone through that process, that might be interesting to think about. What helps you remember God? And this is one of the things that they talk about on the story page too. One of the questions I ask is like, here are some things that, ancient Jews used to do to remember God. What do you do in your everyday life to remember God? So those are part of this, but they're not listed on this copied page that I have for you. So for the activities, there is a couple. So this is during spiritual practice, which is part of that lesson plan. That's on page 8. But it's about basically a prayer about loving the God. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might, right? But they have a listing here of different actions to take, like to do while you're saying the prayer. So I want to teach the pre-Kers how to do this little quick and easy, both verbal and motion prayer, because I think that would be neat for them. And then after that, I've made about 5 copies of these, which should be more than enough in the pre-K. And it's a sheet of paper that they trace their hand on, right? And it should be big enough. I think it's even big enough for me if I want to do it. And it says, trace your hand. Find someone to trace your hand. Write the words, love the Lord your God. And they have an example up here in the corner where they're writing those words on the fingertips after it's been traced. And they can color it and they can do whatever they want. But then they can put their name on it and take it home. If they want to leave it, we'll put it on the bulletin board. But that's just the kind of the crafty activity for them to do. If there's anything else you see in here, those are the activities from this lesson that I thought would be appropriate for the younger group. But if there's other things you want to tackle in there, that's fine too. For the elementary class, again, same story. Here it is in the Shine Bible. And I'll have the lesson in there for you. Again, the wonder and reflect questions, same page. There are some questions that I think might be more appropriate for the elementary class. This is on page 9. Imagine loving God with every bit of yourself, heart, soul, and might. What would that look and feel like? So that's probably a more in-depth question for the older classes to tackle. Let me get the thing here. what else was on my mind? So I also have bought the leaflets, and I don't always get these because I find them to be not always useful. But I got them with this one for the summer, and I think there's one page in here. So it has the Trace Your Hand page that I've copied for the littlers. But this page is called Getting to Know Deuteronomy, and there's some interesting facts and just information that the elementary class might enjoy. So I think that would be a good one to do with them, just read through with them. Deuteronomy is about the laws, right? And all the different laws that the Jews had in their ancient times. So might be an interesting thing to read through. And rules. So one of the activities in building community, I've circled it up here, is about what are the rules we have. And let's create a set of rules for our classroom, for our Sunday school class specifically. What might those look like, right? What are they? And I'm sure they'll revolve around how we treat other people, how we show respect, et cetera, et cetera. But getting them to write them down, there's a clipboard with a piece of paper in the classroom, getting them to write down the rules that they come up with for their classroom, I think would be a great idea. And then we have two different ideas. There's a move game. So these are on page 10. There's a move game, which is kind of short, but you could try it and see if the kids like it. And also a create page. So the create thing is about braiding, creating a braid. And this is one of those things where you'll have like maybe a braided bracelet or something that is used to help you remember things. And in this case, it's remembering to love God or honor God, and different things that people use to remember to be patient and kind and all those things we want people to be on a regular basis. So it's creating a braid, and I will have, and a very simple one, just the 3 lines so that it's one over the other. I'm looking for printed instructions that the kids can follow if they don't know how to braid. I'm also hoping that there'll be several kids in there who already know how and can help the ones who don't. So I'll have probably ribbons in there that they can attach to a piece of cardstock and then create their braid. It will be larger than something maybe to put around their wrist, but if they wanted to try that, that's okay too, if they wanted to make it smaller. But I'll have the materials for that in there. That's under the create section. The move game is a memory game, and it says place 10 objects in front of the children and have them look at them carefully, and then ask one child to leave the room and take away one of the objects. And when that child comes back inside, can they guess which object is missing? So obviously the more objects you have, I think 10 is a good number, you could even have more, the harder it is to remember what exactly isn't there, especially if you move the order around or something like that. And then it says, once identified, return the object to the tray and ask how it might be used to show others love. Repeat this process with other items. Well, I think once you do this a couple of times, the kids get more and more familiar with the items, and it'll be easier to guess. But it might be an interesting thing to do 1 or 2 times and even have a couple of kids leave the room and try and guess which object is no longer on the table. So that's an idea. I will have the materials for these things, the Bibles, the braiding, and the memory game will be in there. There's the clipboard to write down the rules. And also, I will make a couple of copies of this Getting to Know Deuteronomy page in case people want to read it individually, which might be interesting. So let me know if you have any questions. I will not be here this Sunday because it's Emma's actual graduation day. So we're out. But if you have any questions before Sunday, like by Friday, let me know and I'll be happy to help you. Thanks so much. Bye.